Welcome to the Speak and Get What You Want podcast, where you learn to communicate like the world's most successful leaders. Now, here are your hosts, TK Stratton and Chad Kerby.
What is the lie that we all tell ourselves when it comes to selling? That's the subject we're going to be talking about in today's Speak and Get What You Want podcast with the great sales leader and mentor, Jeremiah Sarkett, known as the Shark. How you doing, Shark?
Good, Curbs. Good to be with you and excited to share with your audience.
You know, it's interesting, Shark. We talk about selling all the time, and you're one of those great sales experts and mentors to so many people. And my question to you is, what is that great lie that people tell themselves when it comes to selling?
I think there's a couple, but they all kind of rally up together. And it's, I'm not good at sales, or sales is hard.
Isn't that? And I've heard that. I've heard that before. I'm not good at sales, or sales are hard. Or there's some people that even look down upon sales, like I don't sell, as though
sales is sleazy. Chad,
yeah.
This S word is sleazy, the sales word.
Yeah, why is it that, well, first let me ask you, Shark, why do people perceive it that way? Because the reality is this: I don't care what you're doing, you're involved in sales. Whether you are a parent trying to convince Vic, your son, to go to bed, you're selling him on it. Whether you are a dentist, whether you're an attorney, whatever, whether you're an entrepreneur, of course, a leader, you're always selling. So why is it that people look down upon sales when actually the greatest leaders in the world are exceptionally good at it?
No, it's great. You're selling every day and everything that you do. Like as you get up in the morning and put your attire on for the day, that says a lot about you as a person as you step out into the world. So you're selling yourself to the world. You're selling yourself as, you start your career early on in sales. I think, people rush to a sales job and they think that, I'm going to stay here for a little while and it's just going to be something I do temporarily. But as you really understand sales, it's communication at its finest. Chad, you and I were just talking about what sales truly is before this. And I treat a sales call as a walk in the park with a friend, right? So as you get into sales, develop these communication skills and stay with you for the rest of your life. And you could be in sales for the rest of your life, making a lot of money.
Oh, no question. But, and you know, what's interesting, Shark, is it's not just I'm in sales, I'm therefore going to make a lot of money, but whatever it's you're doing, if you're selling people on it, you could be in human resources. And if you're great at sales, you'll go make a lot of money in human resources, whatever it is. But you said something there that I want you to elaborate on and that is sales is communication at its finest. Well, why do you say that?
Because again, it's that concept or my stance, a walk in the park with a friend. That's how I treat every sales call that I get on. So I treat a lot of my training environments too, when I'm helping people and helping salespeople, grow. It's that concept. So you want to, befriend the person that you're working with. Jeb Blunt says this, and he says it in Sales EQ. It's a great sales book, friends. Go get it. He says people respond in kind, right? And energy is contagious. Energy flows. So, that communication is at the heart of what we do as humans. And there's no other place to craft that skill other than sales.
Well, and you say something there, TK and I always talk about people match your energy, and Shark, that's something that you've mastered, that energy that people is contagious. When I'm around you, Shark, I'm energized by you. When you get up in front of a group of salespeople, sales professionals, they're energized by you. And I know the content you share is phenomenal, but that energy you bring is something that really people hire you for too, because you're so good at that. So let me ask you, a lot of people are successful in sales, but then can't make that transition to sales leadership. And something that you've done very well is you've not only been really good at sales, you were one of the most successful sales individuals I've ever been around. You've been able to become that leader then that inspires other people to be successful at sales, which is not common. So what would you attribute that success to? Being not only someone that's very good at what you do, but also have that ability to mentor others to do it as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So one, you have to sell the serve, and that's my language. That's my program that I developed, Chad, under your guidance and a lot of others at Infusionsoft back in the day. But that program, and obviously Skip Miller was very instrumental for us. But you have to make it about them. So, and when I say that, it's the customer, obviously, but then as the leader, it's your team, right? So it has to be 100% about them. And you really, really, really need to understand how to challenge your team members. Each individual team member needs to be challenged differently. And I'm learning that again and again and again as I coach, my 8U team, Kirby, my flag football team. But, coaching is a great example of leadership.
Absolutely.
Right. Every player needs to be coached differently and they respond differently. So you as a leader need to challenge, right? You as a leader need to be accountable to your action, but your team's actions. And when I was director at Keep, my last stint there, Curbs, we all read a book together. My team wasn't super excited that I was introducing book club, but they became very fond of it later on. But the first book that we read was by Jocko Willink. It was Extreme Ownership. Right. So I think that, is the leadership in the type of leader that I rally for and that I want to be is accountable, is in the front, in the trenches with my team and coaching and training them.
Well, and Shark, you said a few things there I just want you to share more in depth with. And that's this first, you said, you understood that it's important to make it all about them. And TK and I talk about that all the time. Everyone's favorite subjects, absolutely themselves. And so that's why you were so successful at selling, because you made those sales conversations all about them. But then when you transferred over then to leadership, you remembered that principle. And this is what's crazy for me, Shark, is so many people forget what made them successful in the process. So you remembered, you said, oh, look, I'm going to make it all about them, all about them, all about them. And, it was super successful selling. Then you started and became a leader of a team. Well, you took that same mentality and made it all about your sales reps, making them all about them, all about them, all about them. It's crazy that we forget those key things that got us to where we were. And so a lot of sales leaders, people who are successful in sales, become leaders, forget about it, and don't make it all about their team, and don't make it all about them. And you attribute that to a slogan that you have, selling is serving.
Selling to serve. Yeah.
Yeah,
selling is serving, Kirby. You're right. Exactly.
And you absolutely made it all about them. And then you transfer that to the team. And that's why you're able to succeed, whatever circumstances you're in. You learn what makes that individual tick, and then you help them fulfill their potential.
Well, I think that some young leaders that have transitioned to that new leadership role struggle with that because they tend to be imbalanced. And we talk about what balance is. It is, and you do a great job of this, Kirby. You're one of the best leaders at this, and you're a good one to model. So it's the balance between life and work and family and all of those things that we have going on. But it's also the smaller things, like the spiritual pieces, like the biblical work for me, or like the visual meditation, or getting out and doing the physical component of like a walk a couple times a week. Like we need to do the balance pieces as a leader, right? That keeps us grounded, keeps us remembering what you said about who's this all about. It's about our kids first, and then our family ultimately second is the byproduct from that work. But yeah.
Well, and that's the key. Shark, you just said that, and I hope everyone grasps that, is if you are good with yourself, if you take that time to connect spiritually, to connect with God and do what you feel like you need to do, and you're good with yourself, then it's very easy for you to make it all about the other person because you're good with yourself. But you don't need that outside validation. But what happens so often is when someone's put into a leadership role, is they're like, oh no, this is all about me. I got to look good in front of the CEO. I got to look good in front of this individual. And so then we're not good with ourselves. And so we therefore create an environment where we try and make it all about us, and it just is destructive.
Yeah, that imbalance is happening. You want to stay balanced.
Absolutely. So, Shark, what would you say to somebody who's like, okay, I get what you're saying. I know I need to be better at using communication to help inspire others and make it all about others. But what do you do to remember to make it all about others? Because it is difficult, Shark. It's hard to fall in that trap, or it's hard to not fall into that trap where you're making it all about you. So what have you done to discipline yourself enough to keep all your conversations, all your opportunities about the other person? What have you done?
Great question. Great question. And I think, Curbs, you might have been my manager, or no, the director at this time. Um, I had created pre-call research. The concept of what pre-call research was for me was, I'm going to take a business like Chad's and I'm going to study it for 10, 15 minutes, maybe, everything about it. The value prop, the mission statement, who's, the stakeholders, the key drivers of the company. I'm going to do everything I can to study the organization. And then I'm going to phone them. Right. So that was what I was trying to do to gain what ultimately was a leverage for me in my question process. But ultimately it was more. It was allowing me to get passionate about serving that person and connecting with them. And it allowed me to come with like this amazing congruency right away. Like Chad, you said that earlier on, I have energy and I connect well. Like that, I take the time. I take the time to understand the people that I'm working with. Certainly in a sales environment, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Sometimes we have warm leads handed to us, right? Sometimes we're farming for our own leads. Sometimes the phone rings, right? And there's another warm lead coming in. But like, regardless of the lead type, right? Take a few minutes and understand your avatar and the people that you're serving and get real passionate about them, before having a sales conversation.
Wow, I love that, Shark. So have the discipline to learn about other people.
Every
It,
time
it,
though, not
it,
just sometimes, but every time. Every time
every
that you
time.
can. Yeah. And me as an entrepreneur now, it's slower. Like I'm not getting hot leads all the time. Like I'm getting a few leads trickling in, but I get to take the time to know these potential customers. And as an entrepreneur also, you get to choose who you want to work with.
Mm. Isn't that amazing? And
Powerful.
if you think about it, if everyone will listen to what you just said and have the discipline to learn about other people and not get so caught up in talking about you, but really have that discipline to learn and understand other people, Shark, that's something that you're saying has been key to your success.
My whole career. And maybe it was the journalist in me, Curbs. Wanted to be a
Mhm.
broadcast journalist, you guys. And then it shifted to print. But like I was curious. I was inquisitive. Like I was buzzing around with questions. And like, the more that you can do that though, the more that they're talking and sharing their story. And that's ultimately, like you said it, Curbs, that's what humans want to do. They want to talk and share their story.
Absolutely. And so, Shark, not just the discipline to learn, but you also added something there that I think is important, just the discipline to be curious. And then
Huge.
and then remember those things. And Shark, it's crazy to me, I graduated from BYU and I'm a college sports fan. And so, Shark, you'll reach out to me when my school does something successful, right? And so it creates that connection.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to create an equation, and I'm doing this right now, is your discipline to be curious actually leads to connection. And so
100%.
when I started this podcast and we were talking about this, Shark, I was like, what is it that makes you so good at influencing and inspiring other people? And you're saying it's the discipline to be curious, and then that level of curiosity of learning about other people has allowed you to create that connection.
Get that walk in the park with a friend.
Mm.
And I'm really curious about how you're doing today, friend.
Because you know what's crazy, Shark, is people will tell you
It's simple. It's a
everything.
really simple thing, Curb, is at the end of the day for me. Like, and I think people overcomplicate sales and they get
Mm.
timid about it and it's sleazy, maybe like you were saying. Like, it's not. It's the heart and the backbone of human interaction is sales. It's communication. Nothing
And
happens in this world without a sale. If you think about
right,
it,
right, right.
nothing.
And Shark, you said something there too. When you said this earlier, but I want to emphasize that point again. You said sales is simply a walk in the park with a friend, right? So you do what's natural and you let them talk about their situation naturally and you let them talk about their pain points naturally. Shark, they will tell you everything.
They do. My friends do. And here's the other thing with that too, Curbs. We don't let our friends off the hook. Sometimes on sales calls in these sales environments, it gets to the end or it gets to be a tough scenario and we lose because we don't have that next layer conversation and go to the depth that's required. It's like, but wait, we do that with our family and our friends all the time. You're not going to let your
Right.
friend make a bad decision here. And I'm not saying that your product or your service was the right decision, but ultimately as a salesperson, we're more of a guide or a planner than anything, because at the end of the call, you need to create that next logical step. Planner, guide. Here's the path for you to keep going. I'll see you on the next hike.
Wow.
My
Yeah.
time here
So
is
as in
yeah.
sales,
So
you're saying, Shark, you're not a salesman, you're not a salesperson, you're simply a guide getting them to the solution that works best for them.
to get into that, they have a problem. They're stuck here. They need to go there.
Okay, so then what causes sales reluctance in people?
Mm.
What causes them to not ask for the business? Do they forget that they're that guide?
That's such a good question here, Kirby. Like, what's happening is they didn't do enough up front, and they didn't do those other things that pre-call. They didn't have this for them, so they just went quick. And
So
they feel
they
like they feel like they have that connection, but no, you didn't. You don't.
Wow. So you're saying, Shark, they went out, they went out to dinner. In a dating scenario, they
That's
they
a good one,
they went out to
Curbs.
dinner and they propose on the first date,
We're good.
and they're
No,
like,
we're not good. And it's like, hold on here. You didn't ask me about this. You didn't talk about my family. We didn't do this. That extra layer that's required, human to human, H to H, right? Yeah,
"Wow,
spot
yeah."
on.
So people get caught up. People get concerned with trying to ask for the sale. They get nervous. They go to ask for the sale too soon, and that's when that word sleazy enters in.
And or they don't really ask for the sale well.
What do you mean by that?
They're not really asking. Oh, do you have any questions here, consumer? Do you have any? We're at the end of the call. What other questions do you have? It's like, well, hold on here. No, salesperson, get prescriptive based on all of the things that you've heard and all of the stuff that you unpack together. Here's the next logical step. Based on what we talked about, we need to do this, this, and that. I'm going to send you this. You're going to talk to, yeah,
Well, and Shark, what you're saying is really at the heart of great communication, and that is listening. And so when someone says, "Hey, do you have any other questions?" and you're not specific
you're
enough.
not being the guide. You didn't listen. You should have relevance and energy coming right back to everything as the guide or the planner. 100%, Chad. Yeah.
And so as you talk about and unpack these things, the lie that people tell themselves is that they're not good at sales. But the reality is they just don't want to put forth the effort.
They're not
And
trying.
they're not trying. And so yeah, it didn't work out. I had this sales experience and it didn't work out. But you're saying if you approach sales as a walk in the park with a friend, and you have them unpack their pain point and you have them answer questions that allows them to get deeper really to what their challenges are, then you can guide them to where they need to be.
And then,
And
friends, is it sales at that point? It's no arm twisting or convincing or manipulation. It's like I said it before, like the next logical thing to do here.
and so as as people say, then they just no one wants to be sold anything. I had a good friend that went to Hawaii. He was in Hawaii. There's some swap meets there in Hawaii, and
There's
he's like,
Duke for you right there, Chad.
there you go. And he was and he wanted to find a fake Mont Blanc pen. Okay, he wanted to find a fake Mont Blanc pen, and he was sitting in a dentist office. Okay, in Hawaii, And a guy came in, as crazy as this might sound, Shark, a guy came in and said, "Hey, I'm actually selling fake Mont Blanc pins." How crazy is that, right? The guy's like, "Oh, when I'm here in Hawaii, I'm gonna stop by a swap meet and I'm gonna grab some fake Mont Blanc pins." And then a guy walks in and says, "Hey, I'm selling some fake Mont Blanc pins. Do you want one?" And do you want to know what he said, Shark? Not interested. Wait a second. You wanted the Mont Blanc pin, but the reaction to everyone initially, Shark, is
Yeah.
I'm not interested. You know, a good friend that you and I have, Jerome King, Romy told me a story about when he was working at a car dealership, and it was his first day on the lot. And the owner of the dealership said, "Romy, go out there. There's some people walking through the lot." He went out there, visited them for a moment, came back, and the owner of the dealership said, "How'd that go?" He said, "Oh, they weren't interested." And he said, "Hey, Romy, there are two things people don't like to do: attend funerals and buy cars.
Yeah.
They're not here."
Why are they walking on the lot? Yeah,
Exactly. He went out there, Shark, had a conversation with them, took the advice that you would have given him, making a walk in the park. He sold the car to them the next day.
I can see J Rock doing that. Like,
yeah. And
awesome.
So the reality, Shark, is we are all in the business of selling. And when people get to work with a mentor like you, when people get to work with a leader like you remind them of the steps they need to take to not just be okay at it, but to be exceptional.
Exceptional. Yeah, exactly. That's what.
Go ahead.
Jeb talks about it in his book, Curbs. Yeah, sales is a process, and you need to put the process together that matches your buyer. You meet them where they're at.
Right. And the reality is we all are in the business of sales, all of us. And 100%. So as you listen to Shark unpack these things for us, regardless of what you do, whether, like we said, whether you are a parent or, as you do, Shark, coach the 8-year-old football team, or you're an attorney or whatever it may be, you are in the business of selling. So, Shark, one last question.
Yeah.
You've had an extremely successful career in sales.
Yep.
If you were to dial the clock back 10 or 15 years, what's the one thing you would have told yourself, 15 years ago when you were early in your career?
That's such a good question, Curb. Such a good question, Curbs. Probably to stop chasing approval or like perfection. Like, just start chasing the truth about you. The sooner you get to that, like the quicker you can sell the serve. And it took me a long time. I had it a little bit at the start of my career, but I had it all the way when I met Kirby and the crew. That's where it happened. So maybe it's the right organization, the right leader, having a coach, maybe a combination of all of those things. It's your recipe, but stop chasing approval and perfection and get to know you.
I love it. Shark, be good with yourself, be confident in who you are. And it's crazy the things that happen. That confidence piece is so critical. And I love that you said that. Quit chasing approval, because if you're chasing approval, you'll never get it to the level that you think you deserve, or even the level that you want. Yeah. Right? But get after it and be good with yourself. Each of you listening to this podcast have a great opportunity and incredible potential. But one thing that is consistent, Shark, whenever I'm at an event, whenever I'm speaking to a group of people, I'll ask them this question: how many of you believe you're living below your potential? And everybody raises their hand. You want to increase your potential, you want to increase your abilities, then you listen to what Shark just said and get better at sales and watch what happens. Shark, is the best way for someone to reach out to you on Instagram?
No, LinkedIn, I would say. Everybody's on LinkedIn. I'm going to be more present there. Chad, I love what you're doing. Keep doing this. And guys, find me on LinkedIn and connect with me. Any friend of Chad's is a friend of mine, and I can dig in more with you.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Jeremiah Sarkett on LinkedIn. He's phenomenal, a gifted sales individual, but even more gifted leader. What a powerful influence you've
And
had.
coach now, Curbs. Let's
And
go.
coach. Love it. Love it. Shark, great spending time with you. Appreciate your insights. Have a tremendous day, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Awesome.
All right. Bye now.